As you get older, the joys of life get mixed with sad moments. And these sad moments are becoming more and more frequent when you're losing friends of 30 years, 40 years, and 50 years. And this year, I personally lost, and the Weizmann Institute lost, 3 great friends. Sidney Drell, Professor Sidney Drell from Stanford, who was the chairman of SAC, who was a friend of the Institute for 40 years, my personal friend for more than 50 years, and we will find ways of remembering and commemorating him. Derek Lehman, also my personal friend of 30 or 40 years, member of the board of the Institute for 50 years, a real cornerstone of the board of governors of this institute for so many years, and the person behind many, many achievements and many critical situations in which he led the fix of the bad situation. But today we remember Gershon. Gershon, the chairman, Gershon, the friend, Gershon, the very unique person. And it's a great honor for me, a very sad honor, to be asked to remember him for all of us. Gershon was unique, as I've said. He was a great friend of the State of Israel. He was a great friend of the Weizmann Institute. But if you really want to know, I'll tell you a secret. He was really a magician. He made things happen by very hard work, but appeared to act in a very effortless manner. He was an extremely sophisticated person, but he played the role of a very simple-minded person. He was a great master of public relations, but he was never in the limelight. 10 years ago, if you Googled Gershon Kekst, you would barely have 3 hits. Google didn't know about him. This lady Google who knows everything about every one of you. And he was the master of public relations because it was a very special kind of public relation. He made sure that his clients stayed away from the limelight when they wanted to and when it was necessary for the interest. If you were his friend, and it doesn't matter whether you were an institution or a person, he looked at you and he listened to you. He said very little, but he, at the end, knew exactly what you need and what you want, and he tried to do it for you. Always. If you ask him a question, he quickly figured out what answer you want to hear. And then he took that answer and he wrapped it with the answer he wanted to give, and he made a sandwich which you received, and you thought you heard what you wanted to hear, but you really got what he wanted you to say and his advice. And I describe it in a semi-humorous way, but it was exactly like that. And all the great business people and the leaders of industry and the leader of banking that dealt with him ended up sometimes knowing that he's doing it and sometimes not even knowing that he's doing it. But they were ending up at the other end of this. He loved to introduce himself as a businessman. And when you ask him, and in what business are you? He said, I'm in the business of seichel. He said it like that. To those of you, seichel, to those of you who don't speak Hebrew and don't know the Yiddish version of the Hebrew word seichel, well, it's a little difficult to translate it. It's some kind of a carefully measured melange of being smart, clever, wise, witty, and always one step ahead of the competition. That's the nearest I can get to a short translation of seichel. And that was Gershon. You cannot imagine how many leaders of business and industry told me personally, Gershon, he saved my life. And of course they didn't mean in the real meaning of saving my life, but saving my professional life, my reputation, my business, and so on. Gershon knew everybody worth knowing, and they all knew him. But as I said already, the general public didn't know him. He was a very religious person, a religious Jew, but his main religion, his main deep belief was the need to repair and fix everything that is wrong in the world. And that's the famous theory of Tikkun Olam, which he always repeated and which he always preached to me. And whenever he saw me doing something useful or semi-useful, he used to say, "You are a very religious person." Now, there couldn't be anything further from the truth, except if that was the definition of religion. Then I tried my best. Gershon became one of the two co-chairs of the American Committee for the Weizmann Institute in the mid-80s, when the American Committee was in a big, deep crisis, and there was an internal almost war and conflict inside the American Committee, and two people came to the help and became co-chairs. Gershon was one of them. And then in 1993, I was already 5 years the president of the Institute, and we needed a new chairman because our previous excellent chairman, Maury Kofler, may he live long, and he is living long. Really? Oh my God. No. Maury Kofler died today. See? I told you. So that's another extraordinary person, but so Gershon then became the continuation of Maury Kofler and became our outstanding chairman for 9 years. For 9 years, he contributed in 100 ways to everything that was done here. He was really the perfect chairman. And it was actually sad and heartbreaking to see him fade away when he became seriously ill in the last few years. But Gershon, if he hears me somewhere up there, would be quite upset if I didn't end by saying something semi-funny about him and on his behalf. And I have to tell you this, in 1995 it was my great pleasure to be in the ceremony in which we gave Gershon the honorary PhD degree for his great contribution to the Institute. A few weeks after the ceremony, when I next met Gershon in New York, he said to me, "Chaim, do you think that now that I have an honorary doctorate, you could give me one day an honorary postdoctorate?" So I would say to Gershon, if you hear me, I take the responsibility personally to now award you posthumously a postdoctorate, a real one. And we send our love to Carol, to David, to Joseph, and to the little grandson that was born this year and who is also named after Gershon. So to all of you, our love, our appreciation, and thank you for sharing Gershon with us.